Okay.
Meeting will come to order. Clerk Walter Bershevich, could you call the roll, please?
Dave Abdallah,
Here.
Thomas Berry,
Here.
Robert Constant,
Here.
Lisa Hicks Clayton.
Here.
Margaret Horvath.
Here.
Joseph Kosinski. Here. Ray Muscat.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Larry and Charlene Patton, longtime residents of Dearborn Heights, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to have just a moment of silence. This last week, a little 3-year-old girl lost her life in an older gym in a parochial school in the south end of Dearborn Heights. And just a moment of silence for her family, and keep them in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me.
Councilwoman
Can I
Horvath?
just add something to that?
Yes.
Most of us are aware of the fact that in the last 7 or 8 months, our police and fire department have had to deal with the deaths of children. I think it's unprecedented in that short of time. It's difficult when they go to an event and it's an adult, but when it's a child, and we often say we know how you feel, but we don't. And when it's a child that they have to deal with, it breaks their heart and it never goes away. So to our police and fire department, I want to thank you. We pray for you. You're in my family's prayers daily. You are the best of the best, and God bless.
Mayor, we have a lot of older aging buildings, older schools. Now, this particular gym, which I'm very familiar with, it was being utilized by Project Head Start. But the city would, not otherwise be in there to do any type of inspection or anything, would they?
Not at all, but pretty much we've not been commenting on the situation in the least.
All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilwoman Clayton.
I move to approve the order of business January 24th, 2017, regular meeting of the Dearborn Heights City Council as presented.
Support by Councilman Muscat. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the agenda for the meeting of January 24th, 2017, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the January 10th, 2017 meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kozinski.
I move that the council approve the minutes of the last meeting of the Dearborn Heights City Council on January 10, 2017, as submitted.
Second?
Second by Councilwoman Clayton. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. All right, the next item on the agenda, item 5, public comment on agenda items. Does anyone have any public comment on any agenda items? If you would go up to the podium.
Suzanne Todd, Academy Street. I am wanting to speak to item 8A on the agenda. This is regarding the present chief of police. Can't hear you. This is in regards to our present chief of police, Lee Gavin, to receive his pension and salary at the same time while serving as chief of police. In addition, 2 current police captains will be appointed to deputy police chiefs and receive their pension and salary at the same time, while serving in their newly appointed positions. This is a one-time deal and will not be offered to subsequent police supervisors in the future. I understand that such an agreement has been made with Fire Chief Brogan in the fire department as well. It has been mentioned at past council meetings that this practice will not put any financial strain on the city finances or the retirement fund. Since I am not an actuary accountant and don't have access to the city books, I can neither nay or yea this statement. However, what does not pass the smell test is why is there only a select few that this special deal is being offered to, and only this time, and this one time only to particular people? If it's true that this will not put any strain on our city's finances or retirement funds, why isn't this special deal being offered to everyone who works for our city and has earned retirement benefits? The argument made by the mayor in his letter of understanding dated January 18th to the council states this needs to be done because of the significant amount of vacancies and supervisory positions within the city for our police and fire. However, it has been known for years that these vacancies would start taking place in 2016 and 2017. Why weren't preparations started years ago to address these vacancies? Surely there are many of our current police, firefighters, and EMS personnel who are well qualified and could have been prepared to step into supervisory roles when 2016, 2017 came around. Why wasn't this done? In ending, the fact that it wasn't done before now, I feel shows poor leadership. This special deal for a few makes for a very bad working environment and low morale for those others who are working for our city but don't belong to the mayor's select group. My mom had a saying that speaks well in this situation: what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other public comment? All right, the next item.
We have one more, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening, Zuhair Abdelhaq. I want to speak about 8B. I feel that the agreement between the police and the city was negotiated, and the city council didn't know anything about it. To my knowledge, I don't think any one of you have received anything about it until this Thursday. I feel there isn't enough time for the city council to review legal documents which have financial implications to the city within 3 or 4 days, and the only lawyer is Mr. Bob. So, my dear friend Marge, I would like you to lead this effort to take it to study session and to be the ears and eyes of the city like you always been. And I recommend to the city council not to approve anything before you read between the lines, because lots of you weren't too happy with the last agreement, and some of you were really pissed at the outcome of the negotiation 4 years ago. Unhappy. I'm sorry. I get so upset every time I remember what happened during the negotiation 4 years ago, and some of you have confided in me how much you are really upset about it. So please, protect the citizens' money, protect the city, protect our finance. Read between the lines before you approve anything, because this being a habit that few days before it comes in front of you for approval, they put you in the corner, and do not put yourself in that position again. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman,
Mayor?
it was the administration, the mayor's intent that this would get tabled and go to a committee of the whole. If there had been time before the meeting, I would certainly have thought we would have held that meeting. The only other comment that this council directed me to come up with a workable plan for the promotion. And we worked this plan through the entire command officers union, so there's buy-in from all the officers, or not, at least a majority. Not all of them voted for the particular agreement. So I think we've done our job. We're very proud of the agreement, and we're looking forward. All you need to do, Mr. Chairman, is tell me what date the council's available, and I'll have the attorney here, and we'd be more than happy to present it. But I think you're all gonna find it's a very good agreement for the taxpayers, for the police officers, and for the city.
And we talked earlier today about the 31st.
That's correct.
Any other comments? The next item on the agenda, item 6A, fund transfers and current claims.
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Berry.
motion to approve current claims 6-1 through 6-22.
Support. Support by Councilman Musket. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Abdullah.
I had a couple of questions. Number one, on item 6-3, this is for the Anthony Fuoco, if you don't mind. I had a question. The amount on here, on this particular item, the amount in the budget before the payment was 70,000. I had understood it to be right around 250,000. So can you clarify, clarify that a little bit for us, if you don't mind? Do you know which one I'm talking about right here?
Oh, that's the monthly rate. It's
Right, but the monthly amount on here is $20,000.
Well,
Yeah, it's
If
he
you
made it-
multiply that by 12, that's gonna be, quite a bit
Well,
less.
he's not gonna be able to maybe answer that. Prior to us, the city working in an agreement with you, we were planning on having a full-time assessor, so
Right.
it's budgeted for the position. There's enough total money in the respective budget, but per the line item, we'll have to make a budget amendment to allow that there enough amount to pay for his consulting services.
And what is the amount allotted for the year? Roughly.
Do you remember, Vince? I'm gonna say around 300.
And that's,
It's about 300 grand.
Yeah, it's
and that's what I'm asking, but right here it says the amount budgeted before the payment was 70,000.
That's the one line item.
Understand what the mayor is saying is we had it budgeted for a full-time assessor. So there's money in the salary section of that budget that'll be moved over into this line item that should be able to cover it.
Okay.
Because there's no money going against that salary.
No, plus the fringe, the related fringe. There's more than enough in there. But it would've been unfair for you to answer that question, because you don't know what the budget is.
Right, I was gonna look
Okay.
for John, but I see our former controller is still here. Good.
No problem. And I had another one on item number 6-7. Now, this one's not necessarily relating directly to this, but I thought maybe might as well take the opportunity here with Director Bill Zimmer, if you don't mind, if you could give us a little bit of an update in regards to the water situation. I know this was specifically mostly towards downriver, but just give us a little bit of an update. I know you had done some testing.
If I might, Bill, I met with Sue McCormick from Great Lakes Water Authority today. I was gonna report at the end of the meeting, but I can do that now. The issue that we wanted to talk about was in the line of communication as it related to the problem and some of the questions. And I found out today that the certainty of what caused the odor and the taste is not totally been identified. But because people were smelling rotten eggs, it's got to be a sulfur-related item. The difficulty with sulfur, some of you probably had some chemistry, some of you have not, but when you have gases and you take a sample, but you expose the gas to an area, either in a room, it automatically will dissipate. So when you take that sample and you take it to the lab, and the lab that did all the testing, and we also met with the representative who did the testing, I think it's Paragon Laboratories, is that there was no way to detect any, or they did not detect anything in testing for sulfur, sulfides, and sulfate. And those would be the three things they gave. So that's why the odor became a difficulty, and the taste. Taste is relative to individuals, so it becomes very difficult to do a chemistry test on taste. You almost cannot do that. The key is that there's about 75 items that they test for, and in the testing, we had 5 sites in Dearborn Heights. As people called, the sample was taken, it was sent to Paragon, and everything was fine in those samples. There is one item that they noticed and felt that kind of gave them a clue as to what was going on. And that was the fact that, I know you won't be able to see it, but there's a graph, and the peak is regards to something that they call turbidity, but I think it's easier, and it's not a complete synonym, but it makes clear, but it's the colorization of the water. So it'd be like a cloudy condition is what I would say is a good way to describe turbidity. And so they noticed that thing spiked. Now, what caused this was on January 7th, 2017, they started to clean the basin. And they do that twice a year. And what happens is they add, and I'm going to get the word out because it was not something that powdered carbon is added. And so the powdered carbon will combine with some of the turbidity elements and settle to the bottom. So as they were cleaning the particular sedimentary cell, they noticed that this thing was peaking, but they didn't respond to it. So what was happening is some of this turbidity was getting into the water flow. And so as it was flowing through the system, residents were calling. But it was very unusual. Many of the communities and some of the mayors I talked to, they would have one particular person call, and the households on both sides were not affected. So it was kind of a hit and miss. And as was the odor problem and the taste problem. So they continued to add more powdered active carbon, and they found that by January 15th, the problem started to significantly go away. So the number of complaints, and they could graph, and that's the bottom part of the graph. So what we basically did today is we said, you need to give us better information. So there is going to be discussions with the GLWA and the downriver communities to set up a communication link that will allow us to tell our customers as to how to respond. I feel relatively confident that the water is fine and was fine and drinkable, that wasn't a problem. But it gave rise to certain things. For instance, there were comments being made on social media that don't drink the water, make sure you boil it. That is not what you want. You don't want to get your information from social media. You want to get it from the DEQ, the Great Lakes Water Authority, because on this long table of items, and the DEQ is very upset, it's going to have words with some people that put that out on their out on social media, because some of these items that they test for react very badly when you heat them up. There are certain things that you only get like maybe 1 part per liter, but you start cooking this stuff and you might have 1 million per liter. And so they don't want people, there's certain elements in here that when they show up, you do not want to heat your water. You'd want to do the opposite. And so we are all gonna work, downriver communities, Dearborn Heights will be one of them, to improve the communications. This was a wake-up call. People, as we mentioned, is that in light of the Flint crisis, we're all very sensitive, particularly in Michigan, in regards to the quality of water. It's a major concern. And so in essence, that's what I found out today.
Councilman Beery? Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. I do have a follow-up question to that. I know that, I don't think it was the last council meeting. I don't know if it was the one before, but I had requested information regarding our water testing and how often we test it. Mr. Zimmer, I don't recall what you had shared with us, how often we test it. And a follow-up question to that is there a particular area that we test from, or is that water tested at random locations across the city?
They're tested at random locations throughout the city, and if I drop the ball, and I apologize.
No,
I
you
will
did
get
not,
to that.
no.
Yeah, they're tested at various locations throughout the city. We follow the DEQ guidelines for the Clean Drinking Water Act, and this year we'll also be testing for lead and copper, which is only required once every 3 years.
So what's the process to test for lead and copper that makes it a 3-year cycle?
I'm not familiar with that. I have my water superintendent is an S1 operator's license, and he's familiar with all the details.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
That's okay.
But do you think it would be prudent that we checked it every year? I mean, why should we wait 3 years? And I'm not putting you on a spot. I'm just a matter of logic.
Well, we actually are making plans to move in that direction, particularly because of new guidelines that are going to be coming out from the DEQ, such as lead services, things of that sort. I have asked our engineer to go back through 10 years of water main replacement projects and get a list of lead surfaces that were discovered during the course of construction. We are trying to go through, some of our paperwork is ancient, it's 1940s. A lot of the information regarding construction materials wasn't posted on the application or the tap cards. So we are also going to go through all of that material and try to find, wherever lead surfaces are throughout our city.
I think that's a great idea. And I know history is important, but I think just the same focusing on what we can do for the future is just as important. So can I ask you that when you start that lead testing, could you just make an announcement publicly so that our residents are aware that this testing is taking place? Not to say that there's any lead in our water, but just so that they know that we're responding to a situation. Well, I shouldn't say responding. We're proacting on something rather than reacting.
Yeah, that would be fine, but as you're probably aware, we are required to post consumer confidence report every June, and it's sent out in our twice.
But you say we test for lead every 3 years.
That's correct.
So
and
it's just the lead I'm interested in, aside from the report that you print.
Well, I mean, I'm looking into the potential for coming up with a company that's approved by the EPA to do this type of testing. Whether or not we could do that in-house may be cost prohibitive. So I'm trying to find some different alternatives. We do have a couple laboratories in mind, and we will be testing as needed. The DEQ guidelines that are coming out are going to dictate the frequency that we're going to have to test, and I'm sure that number is going to change.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair. Bill, since you have the mic, might as well. I was going to ask this later, but since you have the mic, might as well ask it now. In light of what's going on in Fraser, and as you are aware, that's going to be what I've read in the paper, $100 million problem. What steps will we be taking as a city to hopefully prevent that type of a situation here in our city? and have, obviously, that type of a cost thrown at us with
Are
the
you
40
talking about the
agreement.
sinkholes?
Yeah, the sinkholes.
I don't know that we have anything to be concerned about at this time. Normally, there are indicators, prior to. I don't know what the particulars are of that situation in Fraser. But normally there are things that you can notice, pavement dropping. I mean, I'm not saying that every time you see a flag of cement drop, you've got a sinkhole issue. But we're pretty much on top of all of our storm and sanitary structures. Yeah, and we don't really have any sewers that size that would.
Okay, good.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
Councilman Kozinski.
there was a commentary recently about the Fraser issue suggesting, highly suggestive of the fact that when that occurred 6 or 7 years ago, it was not done right in the first place. So you've got double the expense now because the costs have increased significantly.
They've had two problems
Yeah.
twice in a row, yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Councilman Musket.
On saying all of this water issues, some residents have contacted me about what was going on at the water facility on Ford Road there, just west of Beach Daily, and I did contact Director Zimmer, and what's going on there is just a routine maintenance that they're doing, so everything is fine, everything that they're pumping water in the street is quite all normal. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I took from our email.
Yeah, that's correct. A lot of time, like even when we do water main repairs, we'll open a fire hydrant down the line once we reactivate the line just to limit the back pressure, which could cause other issues.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments or questions on any of the fund transfers and current
Mr. Chair,
claims?
one more item.
Councilman Abdullah.
This would be for Mr. Soba. This is in regards to the weight trim general fund pay on claim number 622. And I just wanted to clarify, I'm not sure if the numbers are wrong, but from the numbers I calculated, it looked like it was possibly wrong. This would be on the invoice part, which is the third page. And something didn't add up because it says there's 13 hours at a rate of, I don't know if that's $80 or 80,000. There's 3 zeros there.
$80. $80. It's for, I think it's a technician or somebody. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah,
there,
for
but that-
Nicholas Lamaco.
No, that wouldn't be 80.
Well, with weight trim. I'm looking
I
at
understand. I don't have that with me there. Okay, I don't have it with me.
Okay, so I'm not sure. if
It's just
done.
an additional zero. It looks like 80, though.
That's
It's per
that's what
hour rate.
I know, but I just wanted to clarify. that.
No, that's
per hour rate.
$80.
Right,
Yeah.
but
I
if
mean,
it
there
goes-
is a there
it's
is a
written as
dot there, right there.
80,000, so I just wanted to. point
No,
that
no,
out.
it's
That's not
80.
80,000.
It wouldn't come out to 3,000 if it was
I get
80,000.
that. I get the decimal point, but there's 3 zeros. You need 2 zeros.
So they're
I
into
understand,
the
but that
hundreds.
wouldn't be 3,000 if it was
No,
80,000.
I understand that, but I just wanted to clarify and
It's a
and point
typo.
it out.
It's
that
a
there's that
typo.
mistake on there,
Typo.
and that's it.
Yeah, the 3 zeros is a misconception.
3 zeros would throw it off, that's what I was saying.
Any other questions or comments on fund transfers and current claims? Hearing none, it's been moved and supported to approve fund transfers and current claims 1 through 22. All those in favor, please state aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. The next item on the agenda, item 7A, advertisement for bids from Public Service Director Zimmer.
Mr. Chair?
Chairman,
Councilman Musket.
I move council approve Director Zimmer's request to advertise for bids to replace one Carrier 5-ton rooftop high-vac unit as outlined in 7A.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Clayton. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the bid and concurring with Public Administrator Zimmer, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The next item on the agenda, item 7B, tabulation of bids for LED sign from Fire Chief Brogan.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilwoman Clayton.
I move to approve and accept the bid from Curb Appeal Concepts to purchase the LED sign to be installed in front of the fire headquarters. Curb Appeal's Concept had the lowest bid at $28,535, includes the electrical. There is a fire prevention grant that will cover 90% of the cost, leaving the city with a cost of $2,854 out of capital outlay. Payment upon receipt, and also request to return bid deposits and access to unsuccessful bidders, as outlined in 7B.
Second.
Second by Councilman Abdullah. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please state aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. The next item on the agenda, report from the mayor. Item 8A for Mayor Pletko, letter of understanding with the Dearborn Heights Police Supervisors Association.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilwoman Horvath.
I move that the council approve the letter of understanding between the city of Dearborn Heights and the Dearborn Heights Police Supervisors Association, and give authorization to Mayor Pletko and the city clerk to sign it as outlined in 8A.
Second.
Second by Councilman Kozinski. Any discussion?
Chair?
We have to vote.
Councilwoman, or Councilman Musket.
I'd like to see if we can move this to a study session.
You have a
Have to
motion on
vote.
the table.
There's
you
a motion
can't.
on the floor.
So you have to vote on her motion. If
And
you
then
want to
you can
vote
make
against
that.
it, then you vote no.
Yeah, you can remove it to a study session.
Well, she got a motion
She's
on the
already had a
table.
motion.
Yeah, but you can make a
Everyone
motion
hold
to
on, we-
refer.
She'd have to amend her
We
motion.
have to vote on the
She's voting to
motion
approve this. Right.
on the table. Yes, we do.
You do.
Yes,
She's already made the motion.
she made a motion.
So it's been discussed that we move item 8A
No.
and 8B to a study session.
no,
It's been
no, no.
discussed.
I
It's
didn't
been
say
discussed.
B.
She made a motion to support this
So-
agenda item.
Right.
We need to vote on this
Right,
agenda
right.
item.
Any further
8A.
discussion
8A.
on Councilwoman Horvath's motion to approve the letter of understanding, item 8A? Any further discussion? No. All those in favor of concurring with Mayor Pletko and approving the letter of understanding with Dearborn Heights Police Officers Supervisors Association, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
No.
No. So that was, why don't we put, the noes are Councilwoman Clayton, Councilman Musket, Councilman Berry, Councilman Constant, and Councilman Abdullah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilwoman.
I'd like to make a second
Clayton.
motion, please,
Go ahead.
to move this item 8A to a study session. Possibly, we might be able to team it with January 31st.
Support.
Support by Councilman Berry. Any discussion?
Why don't you, friendly suggestion, why don't you include 8A and 8B at the same time?
We'll do 8A and then we'll do 8B again. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of moving item 8A, letter of understanding with the Dearborn Heights Police Officers Supervisors Association to a study session, possibly as soon as next Tuesday, the 31st at 7, please state aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Right, the ayes have it. I think it was the same.
Same.
The next item on the agenda, item 8B, also from Mayor Pletko, agreement with the Dearborn Heights Police
Mr. Chair?
Supervisors Association. Councilman Berry.
Move city council, move this to a study session.
Second that motion.
Second by Councilwoman Clayton. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I
Council, our Corporation Counsel Miyake.
No, before you end up having a problem as a body, you really can, as an incidental motion, refer something, even if you have a main motion, just like you can table something. It's the same sort of parliamentary sort of thing. So I just want to make sure that we're clear. You can look over the materials. I'm sure that Coco ended up including that in the materials. It is totally appropriate and in order. And if the city clerk, who's the parliamentarian comment, I think he'd probably agree with me on that. And he's shaking his head yes. So it is totally appropriate for you to end up referring something. You don't have to have a motion. You can end up having a secondary motion that moves something. You don't end up having to have a vote on the main motion.
Mr. Chair.
Berry.
Okay. I would say that you could do that, but her motion was to approve it. So once you make a supporting motion to go to a study session on it, regardless of whether it goes to that study session or not, you have made a motion to approve that. So, yeah, we're going to a study session, but we can sit here and talk about it at that study session all you want, but you know what? You approved it.
No, but you don't have to. You can
No,
end up basically
can
doing
that-
the motion to refer.
I would prefer
being
to
sent-
simplify it
Okay.
and not confuse the situation and just make the motion as singular as possible so that there's no confusion.
See, and the difficulty, without going into too much detail.
Can we, yeah,
No.
let's,
No, I'm listening to him. I want to hear this.
No,
go ahead, go ahead.
Is just to, because then you would go on the merits over and over and over again, and you potentially end up having discussions on the merits when a simple motion to table the matter or to refer it to the study session would expedite things right away.
Well,
That's
first of all,
that's my suggestion.
no, and I understand and I respect that, but first of all, I don't know if tabling it would be a good idea, but in my opinion, like I said, the main motion was to approve it, and that's where, in fact, there may be a gray area. So to eliminate that gray area, I'd rather vote on that main motion, and then we made another motion now to take it to a study session, which I think accomplishes maybe the same thing that you're intending on us accomplishing it. But because my mind is so simple, I like to do things one at a time.
I have no feeling on what it is that you do in terms of the substance. I'm just saying in terms of the ability of the meetings to move reasonably expeditiously, it's something that you should be aware of. That's
Thank
the
you.
reason to mention it.
All right, any further discussion on moving item 8B to a study session? Hearing none, all those in favor? Councilman Kozinski.
We not already voted on
Voted
that?
already?
No,
Voted on
we voted on
8A.
8A.
We
Oh, but there were,
Denise.
We didn't combine them.
check with Denise, the keeper of the records would show if
This
we
is
voted.
what happens every, yeah.
We
okay.
voted, we did vote, it was
So, any,
reversed. this
hearing
time.
none, all those in
Correct.
favor of moving item 8B, communication from Mayor Pletko, the agreement with the Dearborn Heights Police Supervisors Association, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. The next item on the agenda,
Mr.
item
Kaczynski was right.
9A, from City Clerk Persevich, liquor license review fee.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilwoman Clayton.
I will make the motion, but if I may, comment, I'm concerned that the whole original idea behind this fee was to address the business license policies, which was a council pending item for study session, dated 5/10/16, which we did not visit. I respectfully to the clerk, I'm going to support the resolution, move that we eliminate the non-refundable fee of $80 as enacted by the city council, and I'll make that motion.
Support.
It's been moved and supported by Councilwoman Clayton to concur with our city clerk, Walter Persevich, regarding the liquor license review fee. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kozinski.
I'm coming to understand that this $80 fee can be collected under a different umbrella, so to say, according to the code. Maybe,
The liquor license, the fees are more and more being streamlined, but that's comes to us from the state of Michigan.
City Clerk Persevich,
Can we get a
what's your explanation is, I'm understanding that there's a code that would cover the rescission essentially of what we had in place since 2016.
First of all, I'm sorry, Councilman, I was in the back and I didn't exactly hear your question. If you could clarify that for me, please.
Is there a code that you cite here in place that would allow for the $80 to be collected if and when it was necessary to do so?
No, okay. First of all, before I answer that, as you see our person adjusting the mics, and Ms. Todd, when our council secretary moved the mic, it wasn't to take it away from you. We have been having problem with feedback, which cuts off the recording. So if you're here and you hear this buzzing, that's an overload. We've been playing with the volumes in the back. We've been playing with the recording levels here. I've had IT out, and it's because people talk at different levels. So, and now I see that we have a problem with the TV. So that's what's going on tonight. So I was going to talk about that later. That fee was instituted last year, Councilman, when this honorable body passed a new liquor license regulation. And at that time, the counselor wrote that regulation, and part of that was this liquor license review of all liquor establishments that sell liquor by the glass. And the review was to be done by several different departments, buildings, myself, comptroller, our treasurer, and some others. And the reason for that was to discover which businesses were not being good partners with the city. And at that time, the council had the ability to, for lack of a better way to describe it, suggest that their liquor licenses not be renewed by the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. That's the only teeth we have in any type of liquor license transactions. And please, Mr. Counselor, if I'm wrong on any of this, we worked quite a bit on this, but I think I've got this. So at that time, we did that. The fee was a experimental fee. We kind of polled everybody, what do you think it's going to cost to do this? And that's where we came up with that. But to cut to the chase, we did identify several businesses. We went through, I provided the honorable body with a spreadsheet, and there was a study session suggested to address what we were going to do with these businesses, and nothing happened. With that being said, the people who paid the $80 fee are our good businesses that take care of their bills and pay their water bills and take care of that. Not surprisingly, the people that didn't pay the fee were the people that aren't good partners at the present time. So at this point, I feel it's disparate treatment to have our good businesses pay that fee while we don't get it from the other people. So that is my suggestion.
I have a question.
Were you finished?
Does that answer you, Mr. Councilman, sufficiently?
I'm trying to determine whether the $80 is a collectible fee when the council from time to time can establish such a fee as is necessary.
If I may, Mr. Chairman. The fee is currently in place based upon resolution of this body. This body would have to, by another resolution, end up either lowering or eliminating the fee as suggested by the city clerk. So currently, it would be considered to be a fee that would be required. If your honorable body ends up deciding to eliminate it, then it would no longer be required until your body would end up reestablishing it.
So, Clerk Persevich, we need to have the legislation passed regarding our study session and our discussion regarding the fees, correct? Or that's not something that one of the council people would need to initiate?
This honorable body can reject the proposal. You can accept a proposal to, we would still do the yearly inspection. It would just not be a fee associated with it, or you could send it to a study session, I guess, whatever your wishes are, sir.
Well, so we'll get going on that. Councilman Berry?
So if you would clarify for me, Mr. Clerk, you had used the words "nothing happened." So you had a proposal before us, am I correct?
I gave you the information that was required with the ordinance.
And we were to have had a study session on it?
Yes,
Am I
it's
correct?
correct.
in
It's
saying
on
that,
our
Councilwoman?
pending list.
It's on our pending list.
From
But
5/10,
we
16.
never brought it to a study session to address it.
That's correct, sir.
So in lieu of our inaction, you have proposed this because you believe it's the right thing to do.
I do.
Okay, I support that, I'm fine with that. And does that study session outline any other ordinances that we should be discussing, or is it just this one?
If I may, Councilman, it's actually, would be a study session to discuss the individuals, businesses, licensees that have failed to comply.
Okay.
And where there is a recommendation pursuant to the ordinance that was adopted that would suggest that some action should be taken to revoke these businesses or to recommend revocation to the liquor license or the Liquor Control Commission.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman? I'm sorry.
So maybe we can revisit
It
that
will-
as soon as.
But when was that?
It has a date of 5/10/16. That includes alcohol liquor license review and business license policies. Because this came about because, like you said, those
But this was
businesses
back
were-
in May.
Yes, of 2016.
2016.
Yeah, so it's been
So-
over 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we have a motion on the table to approve. And do we have a second?
We do.
So I want to call the vote.
Mr. Chairman, well,
Okay.
Further discussion.
I can't say
Councilwoman
anything then.
Horvath.
I have a question. If we approve this request, does that automatically take it off of the pending list? I think it does.
We'd have to
Actually,
Why not?
I don't think so, and it's something we will revisit soon. I remember the study session, we talked about the fees, the food trucks, and it's
That isn't part of it.
something we have to visit. But I would say the answer to your question is no. It doesn't take it, by revoking the fee that we had, it doesn't take it, we still have to address those issues.
I'd ask Councilwoman Clayton to read the item again.
Okay. Council date, and date is 5/10/16 for both these items. Alcoholic, I can't talk tonight, liquor license review, business license policies, and this came about as what the clerk had said, that we talked about this, and we said we need a standardized checklist, and the issue was the businesses that, and this is my concern, that weren't playing nice, that weren't partnering, right, and paying their water bill, whatever it was. So you're gonna do this $80 fee, but instead, what it sounds like it did, it ends up penalizing the good businesses that were paying it, and the ones that it was supposed to affect, well, they didn't pay it. And so it is, a little unfair there. But those items, to answer your question, are on here for 5/10/16.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Berry.
So it sounds like we still need to revisit that. Am I correct, Councilwoman Horvath?
I don't know.
I believe we
At this point, I don't
probably
know.
still need to revisit that, but we have a motion on the table for this, and I'd like to call a vote.
Councilor Miyake?
If I may, the ordinance requires you to do an annual review. That's what this body is supposed to do. That was what was envisioned, at least in part, with respect to this action item. So that annual review has not been completed.
Bless you.
It should be completed.
Any further discussion?
Annual review of the,
The liquor licensees and whether or not they're complying with our ordinances, basically.
is that done at the council's level, or is that something?
Administratively, there is a review that was done by the departments. The information was given to the city clerk. The city clerk provided information, it's my understanding, to the council. The council is supposed to take that information into a study session, review it, and then give direction to the administration and to the city clerk to follow up accordingly, however the council believes it should. In other words, say someone has failed to pay a water bill, and that's the only thing they've otherwise come up, maybe the direction of this body would be, you should send them another letter, let them know that there could be more serious ramifications if they do not do so. And then maybe someone who's just not paid any of their taxes, no water bills, hasn't done anything, you might end up suggesting at that point that we end up giving them a notice of hearing to show up and show cause why their liquor, we should not recommend to the Liquor Control Commission that their licenses be revoked.
Mr. Clerk,
Any,
wait, hold on, Mr. Clerk's gonna reply.
Further discussion?
Yes.
Clerk Persevich.
I would just like to clarify, I think, partly what Councilwoman Horvath had to say about the study session, maybe some misconception. All I'm asking for right now is for this fee to be waived. The liquor review will go on. It will just not be charged to the people. What we have done is I send out to each department a sheet with each business's name on there. There's a list of questions. Have they done this? Have they done this? Have they done this? What I did last year was show you, I sent you a spreadsheet and I sent you an email. I recommended 4, and several different departments recommended some other ones. This you will get. We have to complete it by March 30th according to the ordinance and according to the charter. So you will still get this. The only thing I'm asking is not have to charge these businesses to do this. Does that clarify some things?
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Abdullah.
Mr. Clerk, I just had a question. Is one of the departments that you check with the police department? I'm curious.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
It's the police, the fire, the ordinance department, the treasurer, the comptroller, myself, and buildings. Those are the departments that are involved in the review.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, it's been moved and supported to concur with our city clerk, Walter Persevich, regarding the liquor license review fee. All those in favor of the motion, please state aye.
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 Those opposed? The ayes have it. The next item on the agenda, item 9B, from Treasurer Riley, Investment of Funds Report for December 31st, 2016.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilwoman Horvath.
I move that we receive, note, and file the report from Treasurer Riley, the funds report for December 31st, 2016, as outlined in 9B.
Second.
Second by Councilman Musket. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion in concurring with Treasurer O'Reilly regarding the investment of funds report for receiving, note, and filing the report, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The next item on the agenda, item 9C, from Assessor Anthony Foucault, 2017 Poverty Exemption Policy and Guidelines.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilwoman Hicks Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to concur with Anthony Foucault and approve the 2017 Poverty Exemption Policy and Guidelines as outlined in Agenda Item 9C.
Support.
Support by Councilman Kozinski. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Barry.
Is our CDBG director, Chris?
Our administrator.
I have a question for you. I apologize. Do we at all work with the assessor's department when he has these requests? I guess that wouldn't necessarily qualify as low mod income, would it? No. So my question, no. So if we.
Sure, yeah,
I know, I'm being real cryptic here because I just figured out the answer and I apologize. My question was going to be that when a application is made to recognize that household as being meeting the poverty lines, whether or not from a CDBG perspective we're able to assist with anything to help maybe maintain the property of that value, the value of that property, but if it doesn't exist in a low mod income, then can't do it.
Well, our eligibility requirements for the residential rehab, like we talked about earlier in the public hearing, are household income. We don't, if they're at a poverty level, we don't have direct assistance. We just do a rehab of the property. There isn't, at other times there were public service agencies that we have funded in the past or that still exist. If someone is having problems with utilities or they're in a poverty situation, we may refer them to a public service agency in the area that may provide direct assistance, but we don't do any of that through the block grant program.
So and I don't know if it's the assessor's place to do it, but if in fact we do have that situation, do you think it would be good to communicate that to you? Would it be helpful for us?
I'm not sure how that would work out. This is kind of, yeah,
I know,
we'd have
I know.
to, yeah, because we, again, as far as knowing if they want to refer the household for possible assistance, like under the residential rehab program, we take referrals from ordinance, et cetera. If they see someone who may
guess that's
benefit,
what it would be, a
then
referral.
we take it over from there. We go through
Yeah.
the eligibility process.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The next item on the agenda from Public Service Administrator Zimmer, Annual Safety Award Program. Councilman Musket.
I move council approve Mayor Pletko's request to proceed with the annual safety awards program, year-end prize program. As in the past, prizes of $500, $300, and $200 are awarded for first, second, and third place winners. The drawing will be for the year ending of 2/16 as outlined in 9D.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Clayton. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of concurring with Public Service Administrator Zimmer regarding the Annual Safety Award Program, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The next item on the agenda, item 9E, from Recreation Director Ken Greibel, Parkland Park Comfort Station Replacement Project Architect Services Contract Agreement.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilwoman Horvath.
I move that the city council approve the enclosed agreement in 9E between the city and George J. Hartman Architect, contingent on a final review and concurrence by Corporation Council, and once the review is complete, that the clerk and mayor sign it.
Second.
Second by Councilman Kozinski. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Councilman Abdullah.
I had a question for Director Greibel. I'm just aware of this particular area because my son played football there way back when he was younger. The spot where this particular bathroom is at, is there any way that I don't know, to me, it seemed it would be more ideal to be closer to the football field. Is there any way that that can be done without any additional cost? Or has that at least been studied? Because it seems like the spot where it's at, people had to walk quite further to get to the bathrooms, to an area that was not as utilized as opposed to near the football field.
Yeah, it's by the pavilion.
No, I'm familiar with that because my son played football.
Yeah, basically that facility services all the picnics that we have out there during the entire summer, so that's why it's placed there. And that's very, for accessibility and things like that. If we start putting it somewhere else, now how do we get handicapped people from that park pavilion to the restroom facility? And then we create a greater issue. But I think the concession stand doesn't, I thought there's restrooms over by the concession by the football.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
And that's what services, and there's a walkway going up that would service the football
It's been
field.
years since he's played, but you're right.
That's okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Miyake.
Yeah, if I just might suggest just a tweak in the wording, final review by me and any changes, because I already can see one that needs to be made, so it should be hard.
Speaker
if we
and
did-
the supporter, all right with that, Councilwoman Horvath?
Whatever Gary says, I'm on board.
I saw you shaking your head no, I was worried. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor of concurring with Recreation Director Greibel regarding Parkland Park Station Replacement Project, Architect Services Contract Agreement, and review by our Corporation Council, and any changes, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The next item on the agenda, item 9F, Ordinance Enforcement Director Jack McIntyre, purchase of motion tablets, docking stations, printers, and related items.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kozinski.
I move the council agree with the ordinance officer McIntyre the purchase of 2 motion tablets and all of the accessory equipment, and authorize the payment upon arrival. All details according to item 9F dated January 9th, 2017.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Clayton. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Abdullah.
I just want to get a little bit of a clarification from Director McIntyre in regards to the need for these, specifically the 2 motion tablets, if you don't mind. Can you just give me a little more explanation on these?
Are you asking why we're ordering 2 additional ones?
Right.
So recently you approved the full-time position to be a grease inspector. So currently we have 3 full-time ordinance officers on the road every day and 3 part-time. With the addition that you made, that'll bring us to 4 full-time, 3 part-time. So that's 7 tablets being used. And then the 8th tablet that we have, because we have 8 currently, Carrie, who is a full-time person that I share with the police department, she picks up a tablet on her way to the police department every morning because she uses it over there. So that's 8. I need 1. I keep one on the weekend so that if I get a call from the police department, I can look up things from, related to properties and homes. And then what we found is that each one of them, well, at least 6 of them, have had to go back and be re-imaged by the manufacturer. It was covered under warranty. And when they're out, they go for about 3 to 4 weeks. So then we're actually down 1, and we don't have 1 available. So we actually need 9 to have every day, and then we wanted a backup.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of item 9F, ordinance, concurring with Ordinance Enforcement Director Jack McIntyre regarding the purchase of motion tablets, docking stations, and related items, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The next item on the agenda, item 9G from Councilwoman Hicks Clayton, Michigan Municipal League Elected Officials Core Weekend Seminar Level 1.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilwoman Clayton.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I move that City Council approve the payment of $320 for our 2 council members, Councilman Abdullah, Councilman Muscat, to attend the Michigan Municipal League's Elected Officials Core Weekend Training. The funds are to be allocated from our general fund budget fiscal year 16-17 City Council education item as submitted in 9G.
Support.
Support by Councilman Berry. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a
Councilwoman
discussion. I
Horvath.
have a question,
Yes.
and I don't wish to prolong this conversation, I just have a question. I find it interesting that Councilwoman Clayton put an item on the agenda asking permission for us to allow 2 other council people to go to training. I'm just curious as to why Councilman Abdullah and Councilman Muscat couldn't have done this on their own.
Well, we had a similar discussion, but I think the issue was Councilwoman Clayton's involvement with MML, and she wanted to make the motion. You might argue that.
It being one motion, yeah.
Yeah, more appropriate that they would move the participants, and they're both interested in going, or, yes.
Mr. Chairman, through the chair, respectfully, and I do serve on the Elected Officials Academy Board for Michigan Municipal League, and we are always encouraging our fellow elected officials, especially when they're relatively new to being an elected official, to attend these things. I shared that, and I spoke to both council members and had their blessings, so to speak, to move forward, and that's what happened. So the purpose of the letter is for the allocation of the funds to send them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please state aye. Aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it. The next item on the agenda, item 11A from Treasurer John Riley, resolution authorizing installment purchase agreement and form installment purchase agreement for Act 99 financing.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Berry.
Go ahead, Mr. Horvath. Requested.
Councilwoman Horvath.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the council approve the resolution authorizing installment purchase agreement drafted by Miller Canfield, approving the terms and conditions of the low bidder, Comerica Bank, to finance $206,718.67 of the cost of purchasing a new phone system from Suntel and 10 copiers from Conoco Minolta per Treasurer Riley's recommendation. Comerica bid a rate of 2.53% per annum for a term of 7 years. The city, Comerica requires the city to reimburse them up to $1,500 for their legal fees as outlined in 11A.
Support.
Seconded by Councilman Kozinski. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of concurring with Treasurer Riley, passing the resolution, which I think we all have a copy of, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The next item on the agenda, item 13A, under new business, business license renewals for First Mutual Auto on Telegraph and Leo's, Coney Island at 26540 Ford Road.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kozinski.
move the council approve the renewal of the licenses attached to and defined in 13A.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Clayton. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Councilman Abdullah.
This is for Mr. Clerk. Looking at it here, it says that there's, they've checked off at the present time you are delinquent on your water bill and the amount of, and there's no amount in there. Do you know what the situation is on that offhand?
Yeah, they're up to date. That was just somebody put an error check on it.
Okay, so it's an error? Okay, and then on the next one there, the one for Leo's Coney Island, is everything 100% up to date? Nothing, because there's nothing at all checked off, so it's all fine? Okay, thank you.
That's your dad's phone, right? Leo's.
No, no,
Leo's
it's
or
Kirby's.
Kirby's, I'm sorry. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the business license renewals set forth in item 13A, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. The next item on the agenda, item 13B, regarding permanent traffic control device, stop sign at the exit of the Polk School North parking lot and south side of Annapolis, west of Huron. Councilwoman Horvath?
I move that the council approve the posting of an exit sign at exit of Polk School North parking lot on the south side of Annapolis, west of Huron Street, as outlined in 13B.
Second.
Second by Councilman Abdullah. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. That ends the regular portion of our, business portion of our meeting. Any announcements from anyone at the table?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilwoman Clayton.
Hi, thank you. Mr. Chairman, just an announcement. There is a community service project, Valentine's for Veterans. So between now and Veterans Day, we are encouraging all of our students who are interested to make an extra Valentine, create an extra Valentine for a veteran. And the cards will be picked up. All of the schools received notification today of the service project. And the cards are going to be, or the Valentines, are going to be delivered to local Dearborn Heights veterans groups as well as the VA hospital downtown. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair?
Councilman Musket.
I guess I have to direct this to either the mayor or Director Zimmer, but I'm still receiving a lot of phone calls about trash pickup. And how it's not being picked up sometimes, or the way it's picked up. I've encouraged everyone to please call Mr. Zimmer's office. They had some incidents there on Oakland Court here, and I told the customers to please call Mr. Zimmer and give him the opportunity to correct the problem. But we're also having problems where at school pickup zones where people park their cars waiting for their kids to get off the school bus. And they can't pick up the trash, and they just drive by the house and don't come back. This happened on Gully this past week, and they're still not picking up the cans the way we were told they were going to be picked up, with the mechanical arm on the side. Now, I guess I spoke about this before, that we were promised that they had made the investment, and I don't see the investment had been made thoroughly throughout the city. They're still grabbing garbage, the trash containers, and dumping them in by hand and kind of smashing them up a little bit. So I hope that you're in contact with GFL on this situation. And we also spoke about a letter being sent out to the residents at the last council meeting. And again, people are saying they didn't receive a letter. So I'd like to know the status on the letter and go from there.
Before we get to Councilman Berry, do you want to respond, Public Service Director Bill Zimmer?
My office will continue to take the complaints. We have a different reporting procedure that's going to be in place here very shortly.
Thank you.
What about the letter?
The letter, I think we're still working on it with the Ms. Ms. Laszlo, sorry. That was one of our possibilities, putting something in the water bill. A link or something to identify the proper placement.
Councilman Berry?
So this is related to trash as well. I'm sure everybody's received phone calls, and although it sounds like it is kind of simmered down a little bit, I'm still bothered that some of our seniors are being required to bring in doctor's notes saying that these cans may be causing them distress or too heavy for them or not safe for them because of a condition. I'm embarrassed by that, I really am. And then if they want a smaller can, I'm being told, and I don't know it for sure, that they're being required to pay approximately $65 for the can. I don't understand. You know, we purchase these cans through, is it Cascade that we purchase them through? I don't understand why we can't get on the phone with Cascade to say that, hey, we have a problem here and we'd like your help. We have many of our senior citizens who cannot handle these cans. Would you allow us to trade in? I mean, they make these cans on a regular basis. And if they can't trade them in, then we paid for these trash cans with taxpayer money. We should have been considerate enough to find out what worked for those seniors or not. The elderly lady that spoke with me about it, she said that, yeah, she handled it wrong. She attempted to pull the trash can rather than push it like it should have, so she knew she was wrong in doing that. Unfortunately, when she pulled, she hit a patch of ice, she fell on the ground, the can fell on top of her, and she struggled to get out from underneath it. It just bothers me that we don't have something that makes a little more sense, and it's not to criticize anybody, to help the seniors. Can we talk about how we're going to help?
Okay, just in response to because I talked to the same woman at the Southwest meeting that you spoke with.
Yeah.
And I really don't, I don't want to get into too much of her business, but her son actually told me that she's not even supposed to be taking the trash out at all.
You're right.
So, but let me
that
finish.
Doesn't justify.
No, let me
an
finish.
Excuse for.
The most efficient way to deliver these cans was to deliver one large can and one recycled can to each property. It's the best way to have a control over it. It's the best way to monitor it. And then what was the information that was put out there is that people on an individual basis could come and approach either the DPW department and through the mayor's office if they needed something that was more specific to their needs, and that's how we're doing those.
Okay.
One of the things that we mentioned the other night
But tell me, hold on, I apologize, let me address that. Why the doctor's note?
Dolores, please, one meeting.
Why, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Jack. I think you do a
Well,
great job.
hang on a
but
second.
Why
Let me-
the doctor's note?
Well, if you needed a handicap sticker for your vehicle,
No.
you have to get a
That's
doctor's
state-
note.
That's a state regulation.
No, but Tom, I'm sorry, Councilman.
That's fine, Tom.
We would have we would have a line down to Telegraph if at City Hall. There has to be a way to kind of determine based on a real need. I'm not disagreeing, and I don't want to say something tonight that's going to end up being on a blog that says I'm not sympathetic to people's needs.
No, it's not about you. Come on.
But it's going to happen. So that's why I'm saying the best way to have control over it is to have a system in place first where one large can and one recycle can was delivered to every household, and they belong to that household. Not to the people that are in the household, but to that household. And then if there's something that's more specific, some people have ordered 1 and even 2 additional large cans because they
fine.
require that much, and they paid for that. So it was, and that's how it was determined that it needed to be done that way, to have some kind of control over it.
Okay, I respect the fact that we're trying to control the situation. I don't like to look at other cities and use them as an example because I like to think that we can set our own examples. But there are neighboring cities that went through this. In those neighboring cities, what they did in the beginning was they put out a letter asking the resident what type of can would best suit your needs. To me, that makes far more sense. I understand logistically that it would be easier to drop just cans off, but come on. That could be my mother, that could be your mother, that could be, let's just call it an elderly person that needs some special consideration. Why would we want them to have to go to the doctor to get a letter to prove that they're not capable of holding that can? It just doesn't make any sense to me. I think Mr. Miyake wants to comment.
Jack, do you have a response first?
No, I thought Gary was going to say
Gary,
something.
go ahead.
I was just going to say that when we had the meeting with the individuals, they indicated that their recommendation was to go with the 2 larger cans and then fill in afterwards. And that was considered to be a sensible suggestion, particularly because the cartons would be owned by the city, and then you could potentially end up having a resident select one that would be smaller, but then when it comes to the next property owner, if there's a transfer of ownership, then you end up having someone who has an inadequate amount of capacity for that trash. So that was the suggestion.
My response to that is that I appreciate your input, Counselor, but we did this for the residents. We asked the residents to pay for this. This is not money that came from the state. This is not money that came from a grant. This is not free money. It's their money. And they're asking that something be made simpler for them. They're asking that we address a potential rodent problem, and this was a very good solution to it. And GFL came in here and said, this is the most sensible approach to take, because if they were going to have Cascade or somebody drop these cans off, it's a heck of a lot easier for them to just drop big cans and little cans rather than take a look at a sheet to say that this one gets 2 small ones and this one gets 1 big one and 1 small one. So it was sensible as an operation move for them, but it's not sensible for our residents, and it's wrong. So I still think it needs to be addressed without a doctor's excuse. I still think we need to think about what's best for the resident, not what works best for us. We're here to serve them.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilwoman Clayton.
And if I may, now I agree, actually, with you, Councilman Barry, on that. You know, there were communities that they did survey. I mean, there's Southgate, I believe Garden City did, you know, and I think that's the right thing to do. I mean, when you look at the logistics, that may be easier, but we're talking about people. We're talking about service that our residents pay for. We're talking about the canisters that they pay for. It would make sense to have survey, but that's water under the bridge. What I'm more interested in is how do we move forward and how do we adjust this in the best interest of our residents, who we serve and who we represent. Earlier this evening, we had a community development block grant hearing, and I did mention meeting with the Disability Commission and the Commission on Aging and with our community development block grant coordinator. I would like to see a formal proposal submitted to community development block grant, because two of the clientele criteria includes the disabled and our senior citizens, to provide something fair to accommodate these needs, to alleviate the concerns of our disabled and senior residents. I would still like to see that realized. Granted, the timeline is already passed, but that could always be amended and added. So I would really like to see that considered moving forward. The bottom line is, let's try to make this right for our residents based on their needs without the doctor's note, by the way, because I find that very invasive when you're asking, and then I have to choose to share medical information I should not have to. Thank you.
Director Zimmer and our ordinance officer, director, I'm sorry, Jack McIntyre, and our mayor, it's not possible, so Mr. Jones comes in, says, I need a smaller can. So he gets the smaller can, he turns in the bigger can, and then if years later he sells his house, the new owner says, no, I need the bigger can, they just go in and they turn in the smaller can. The idea is that the can is assigned to the house, to the address.
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Musket.
I vividly remember our very first study session on this matter. The first question, I believe, and I believe it was mine, can someone get a smaller can? And the answer was yes. There was no stipulations put out there. That's when I clammed up, because I said to myself, great, my mom can get a smaller one, my mother-in-law and my wife's aunt could get a smaller can. I was rest assured that they would may be able to handle the smaller can. So I let it go. The answer was yes. Then all of a sudden this changed. It changed, well, with a doctor's note. Then with whatever they need, then they had to pay for it. So it all changed as it went on without giving us that information. To properly vote on this, again, the lack of time it was given, that we had to be able to vote on this thing, okay? And I keep saying it over and over again, and it was just, I don't think logistically it wasn't handled correctly at all.
Director, may I ask a question, follow-up question to that?
Councilman Berry?
Have we talked to Cascade at all? Jack, if you've been responding, have we spoke with Cascade again to ask if we have a situation where we need smaller cans? Can we trade them in and provide just a swap for them?
Not if they've been used.
They won't swap them out. They're made and stamped with our information on them.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And so, again, I go back to, could we still swap? And I know maybe storage for those cans would probably be almost out of the question at DPW.
Someone give,
we don't know how many cans.
We've been meeting, Bill, Chrissy, and I kind of threw myself into those meetings too. We've been meeting on a regular basis with GFL.
Would it really be GFL that's responsible for this? Because all they did was distribute. Well, Cascade distributed them. Okay, so where would GFL come in this? They just pick them up and dump them. Yeah. I don't hear any answers.
And then any idea on how long until the new updated newsletter will be out? 30 days, 60 days?
Right.
We're gonna be finishing up. There's gonna be a mess. It's gonna be included in the water bills. That's what we decided last week. It would save on a tremendous cost in terms of sending out an additional mailing. And as I mentioned the other night at the Southwest meeting, some of the confusion about the carts in the street. Clearly, that there was a picture that said, that they should go in the street. Selectively, what my department has been doing. And I'll tell you, I've been touring every garbage day. I've been going through the neighborhoods, and I'm seeing people it's taking a slow process, but people are getting them up on the curbs. When they can't put them on the curbs, then they're putting them in the apron of their driveways, and that's what we've instructed them to do. My ordinance officers are changing their zones up so that they're making sure that they're doing concentrated efforts on garbage days in their particular areas, and they're tagging homes and letting them know that the procedure that the ordinance has always said that garbage should be up on the curb, not in the street.
So you know what they do in Dearborn, and I've seen GFL do this recently as well. Dearborn puts them in the street, and I hate to compare other cities. I'd like to look at us as a lead city, but they put them in the street, and then GFL will move them to the apron.
The problem with that, we just talked about this last week in the meeting, is if Bill has a truck that's scheduled at 8 o'clock in the morning, but GFL's not picking that trash up until 1 o'clock, that's the scheduled time, then that's going to kind of defeat the purpose of why we want vehicles off the street. Chrissy covered this with them last week in a meeting. She said if a can is not in the correct place, I want it returned to the easement. So we've covered that part of it, but we are really encouraging people to know that the ordinance says that the garbage has to be placed on the easement, or in addition, if that's difficult, it's where we were putting it before. When I was just coming back from court today, of course, we take Gully to, well, those folks never had an option because they're on a main thoroughfare. And then I cut into Graceland, and that entire neighborhood is putting it on the easement. Oakland Court, someone mentioned Oakland Court. They had a problem with it 2 weeks ago. They're all doing it the correct way now. Some people are still putting it so the mechanism is not facing outward. And in that case, we asked last week in the meeting, and they said every time they come up, they'll have the driver get out. But they encouraged us to get the information out that those mechanisms need to be facing the street.
So in how many seniors have called us to ask? Do we have any idea?
We were just talking about this last week. It's not been that many, and I reported that to you last week at this meeting. I think a lot of times there are generalizations made of all these people that are calling. We're just not getting the calls, but we have a system in place. And I'll take this opportunity to say it. I was going to announce it at the end. If folks are having any kind of issue, anything related to their garbage, whether it's collection, whether there's an issue with a garbage can, when they place it down, if a wheel inadvertently gets broke, that was mentioned last week, they call 791-6000. When we first started implementing the garbage cans, we brought in 2 part-time people that's all they were doing in the DPW, in addition to the girls that are there, is answering phone calls. Jonathan has been in my office. He's going back down there tomorrow. So there should be there should be no one that calls and doesn't get through on that day.
So your original response was there wasn't that many?
There really wasn't. Yeah, it was about 30 to 40.
Okay. If
now, what a lot of people don't.
If that was the amount, that's really minimal amount of people. Could we have just taken care of those silently without issue?
Okay, and the ones that I'm talking about, the 35 to 40, are not folks that were coming and saying that they had some form of disability. They were folks that were just coming and saying we'd like to go with a smaller can.
Because
we don't want the.
They themselves couldn't.
Maybe they just foresaw it that way, or maybe they didn't feel they had that much garbage.
I'm not trying to be confrontational. I'm really, and you know that through all this GFL, I wasn't present, so I apologize to the council. I'm getting caught up. Sorry, I apologize. I'm just trying to get caught up and think that there's got to be something logically we can do to help some of the seniors with this without requiring a $65 can and without a doctor's note. Because think about it, if they go get a doctor's note, if they have to pay anything to go see that doctor, they're gonna have to pay the copay on it?
And then $25 for the letter.
Dolores, please, Ms.
And
Swan,
I'd
please,
like to address
this
the
is
issue
for
since I'm one of the
announcements
complainants.
For the table, so it's not time for comments from the
Well,
audience.
it involves me, this issue.
Please have a seat. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have just a
Councilwoman
follow-up question
Clayton.
for clarification. And I agree, we need to make sure we get a communication out. We talked about a letter. My question is, I heard it's going in the water bill, and it would be a link. My concern with that is not everybody's going to access computer and look up that link. So I would like to see, just a suggestion, a letter go in the water bill, something that they can, not everybody's going to access, right? You see what I'm saying? To be clear on what the instruction is, because there's so much confusion now. You see what I'm saying? Can we get a letter in the water bill versus a link?
Can't do an actual letter, but we have enough space to designate a few lines. We're also doing a press release regarding it. We're going to do a couple announcements in the press and guide. What I'm personally doing, and I talked to the mayor about this, we're trying to make ourselves available at every neighborhood meeting. I did last week. I've got another one I'm going to. Of course, I'm at my own. We're going to get information to the senior centers to make sure those things are posted there. One interesting thing too, and for some reason, my 53-year-old brain won't wrap myself around this thing called, what is it called? I don't know why I cannot remember that. But it's a website that we have access to through GFL, and it's connecting the mayor's office, DPW, ordinance. We're all being connected to GFL. So we really are encouraging people to call the DPW department with anything that's related to it. Jonathan is going to be manning the phone. He's going to be taking the calls. He'll input this stuff into this queue alert. And then we all have access to it, so we can see how it's being resolved. It goes right to the supervisor that's in charge of that, and then he's giving us immediate feedback on how he's resolving that. Someone mentioned at the Southwest meeting last week that the driver let the can come back down, and she felt that he saw that the wheel was broken. So I told her, I said, we have to get that information right away, so you have to call DPW and let us know when that happens.
Right.
So
That Q alert is part of their customer service care, isn't it? Through their customer call center?
no, it's something separate that they set up for us. It's just
Yeah.
unique to our city.
Oh, I see, because I thought I read it in the RFP.
No.
The bid proposal.
Through GFL. Rizzo had the Fred Crail done on the tracking. This is for customer complaints.
This is so that we're not trying to reach each other on cell phones and leaving messages. We all will have access to us, and we can get the information and get it corrected.
Thank you.
And Director McIntyre, the number that somebody
Yes.
calls is 313-791-6000.
Correct. And Jonathan will be answering the phone, or Sherry or Carol, and they'll be taking that information.
Yes. it's-
DPW.
Any other announcements from anyone at the table? Councilwoman Horvath?
Chairman.
Yes.
To put a little levity in this meeting tonight, at the last meeting, someone referenced the fact that a council person, meaning me, often does not call you council chair. Well, I got a story to tell you. I've known Robert for, 35 years?
About that.
He worked for my brother. When I first met him, I called him Bob because Robert, Bob, they go together. And Robert told me that my dad doesn't want me to be called Bob. My name is Robert. So for 35 or 40 years, I've called him Robert. I've known him as Robert longer than I've known him as council chair. So if I screw up once in a while, you'll know why.
Thank you.
Very well put.
No problem. No problem. Any other announcements from anybody else at the table? Any other announcements? Any other announcements from any of our department heads? Library director?
Oh, hello, Council Chair and Mayor. Just wanted to talk about a couple of upcoming events. First off, as a reminder, if you or a loved one is accumulating a bit too much clutter and you are concerned, join us Thursday, February 2nd at Carroll and Kenny Library at 7 p.m. for a program on hoarding. Dr. Terrence Schulman is a certified expert on the topic for some time and has written books on recovery. So come on out and clear up any reservations or anything else that you may have on the topic. Also, Tuesday, February 7th at 7 p.m. at Carolyn Kennedy Library will be a program on diabetes prevention. Join us as Ginger Ramsey, RN, goes through diabetes issues and pre-diabetes prevention. Recognize the signs as St. Mary's Mercy Livonia's outpatient program, there's a mouthful, gives you the information that you need to know. That's all for now. Thanks for your time, and see you at the library.
Thank you.
Any other announcements?
Good evening, Council, Mayor, and guests. I'm Bob Ankrup. I'm the Emergency Manager and PIO for the City of Dearborn Heights. Just wanted to give you a little reminder that we have a new class coming up for our Community Emergency Response Team, or the CERT group here in town. It is a program that provides some basic training for disaster preparedness and disaster response. And once you go through the class, it's about a 22-hour class, you can choose to become one of our volunteers who will help out during times of disaster. We've used our CERT members in the past for storms when there are large power outages. They were instrumental in helping out with our floods that we experienced a couple of years ago, things of this nature. Okay, we're working this class a little different this time. Typically, we do 9 weekly classes, so it takes a couple months to do it. This time we're doing a weekend class. It's going to start and take place on the weekend of February 17 through 19. It'll be a Friday night, all day Saturday, and then part of the day on a Sunday. Okay, so it's going to be a lot quicker, a lot easier to digest than having to commit to one night a week for 9 weeks. Okay, the information on the program is on the city's website in the news and events section. It is also on our CERT Facebook page, Dearborn Heights CERT Facebook page. Just go to Facebook and type in the keywords Dearborn Heights CERT, and you'll get all the information you need, as well as the application form, which you'll have to fill out. Or any other questions, give me a holler. Again, I have a couple offices, one over in the police department, and one I spend a lot of time in our TV studio as well. So again, I'm pretty easy to get hold of. So any questions, give me a shout. But we hope you'll consider taking part in the training, which is good information to have, whether you become a volunteer or not. But we really hope that once you finish that training, you'll become one of our volunteers as well. Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
You want to give a phone number, Bob?
Sure. My office number over at the PD is 313-277-7045. And my email is ankrrob, that's ANKRROB @yahoo.com. So again, any questions, concerns, whatever, don't hesitate to give me a holler. Okay, thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Any other announcements?
My name is Dennis Hardy. I'm one of the navigators for the Affordable Care Act, and we work from a grant, and we work in Dearborn Heights, Garden City, Livonia, and we've got a week to go before the insurance stops for general enrollment. So I'm just here to let everybody know that we're here to help. We have an office here, and
Here in City Hall.
Mhm.
And when is that office manned?
It's about 10 to 4, Monday through Thursday.
And also Garden City?
Same hours.
And is there a phone number?
Yeah, I have some phone numbers too. Let's see, the one here is 734-679-7645. We have a location at Maplewood Community Center in Garden City, and that's 734-793-1849. And I said, I meant Westland, 734, that's City Hall, 734-679-7827.
Mr. Chairman?
So,
Why, excuse me, you gave our City Hall number as 734.
Well, this is our direct lines to
Okay,
Affordable Care Act
Okay.
information.
So, Mr. Hardy, if someone wants to sign up for healthcare and is having problems, but maybe they can't go to the computer website, they can come in and see,
Exactly.
okay.
But it's even better than that. I've had a lot of compliments because they have the familiarity, and rather than an individual trying to, I mean, look at these inserts they put in the newspaper that it's hard and a struggle for a reasonable person to
It
navigate
really is.
through
It really
this.
is.
And what they have found is they found good health care at a reasonable price. And so I've had people come and tell me that said, gee, we were gonna sign up for I'll say like a $800 a month plan. You found them a better plan for $210.
Nice.
Yeah, we try our best, and we're here free of charge. I mean, like I said, we're paid through a grant, so it doesn't cost the taxpayers any money. It's just for all the residents.
And we were pleased. The grant, I think, was originally obtained by Garden City, and the city manager in City of Garden City, Murray, was nice enough and gave me a call one day, said, would you guys in Dearborn Heights like to be included? And I thanked him, and so it's helped people, and that's what it's all
We do a
about.
lot of Medicaid, too. A lot of people don't have access to computers or the internet or the web or the Wi-Fi or whatever, so we help them get started with that.
Yeah, I was told, give us a room, a phone, and a desk, and we'll be over there, so that's what we did.
And the number again for Garden City was 734-7?
931849.
Folks, if I can interrupt one more time to mention one more thing about this program, it is absolutely confidential.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Important point.
Yes, it is, absolutely.
Thank you,
All
thank
right.
you.
Well, thank you.
Any other announcements? Hearing none, if any residents want to come up and state
Stay
their
right there, I gotta clear this up.
name and their...
My name is Jacqueline Turner, McDonald Street. No, sit down, Dolores. Regarding those cans and transferring them out, I know 3 people who actually did call up GFL, and they got the can swapped out. They came and picked up the big can, scanned it off from their address, and gave them a little can and scanned the number. 2 of them paid that $40 with their doctor note. One of them did not. She simply called. They changed it out for her. That's all I wanted you to know. Sorry, council. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
And I want to
Please
thank
state your name and the street you live on.
Dolores Swan and on McDonald. And I want to thank you, Mr. Tom Berry, for bringing this issue out in the open again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Dave, thank you. Ray, Lisa, thank you for all supporting your aging senior citizens, which I am one of them, and I am one of these people that requested the small can. Because I don't need a doctor to tell me that I couldn't handle it. I tried it out there at the lobby. I couldn't handle it. But I did get my doctor's note. Now, to get the doctor's note, a lot of people have to pay $100 to go visit the doctor. Then they might have to pay another $25 to get the letter. Okay? But I did. I got the letter, and I paid the $40 versus the $65 if I did not have a letter. I also called GFL when I was told about this trade-out. I called GFL, and I told them, well, I have the small one. What can you do about the big one? They will pick it up. Yeah, they'll come pick it up. Of course, they will destroy it, and they'll say, just put on it that it's ready for the recycle, and they will destroy it rather than reuse it or send it somewhere else. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Tom. I paid my taxes for 42 years. I feel that I shouldn't have had to pay extra. I should have got my pail that I can actually use like everybody else got.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please state your name and the street you live on.
I'll make it quick today because I'm losing my voice. So I know that the mayor's been presented with the 911 consolidation contract, or Mr. Miyake. I'm wondering when we can possibly get a look at that.
I think she needs to give her name first for the
Oh,
record.
Deb Brown, England. I live on Silver Lane.
And direct your...
Yeah, my question is I believe that the mayor has received a copy of the contract, and when might we be able to see the contract for the 911 consolidation dispatch?
I believe they're still reviewing it and going over it.
I saw Mayor O'Reilly, we sat next together at the Tale of Two Cities. I inquired, and he told me that there would be a document sent to me, and more likely a meeting. He has not contacted me, and I don't have anything to give.
So they're still in the discussion stage.
Well, there was one attorney from Dearborn sent the Dearborn Heights attorney, and it's all over privileged and confidential, but Mayor O'Reilly told me to ignore that.
So there is no contract as of right now.
In my estimation, my mind, there is no contract, and I have nothing because Mayor O'Reilly told me that we would have a meeting and he would have a presentation for an agreement. The other person I asked, because he knows what is pretty much going on in that regards, is Mr. Feldkamp, who we all know. And Mr. Feldkamp told me that there are internal discussions going on in Dearborn as it relates to the size and how many communities they want to include, and that has an effect on price, and that has not been internally completed. And that was per Mr. Feldkamp, I'd say about 1 week ago. I think it was last Wednesday or Thursday.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Please come up and state your name and the street you live on.
Sue, I live on Parker, my husband Rich. The reason that I come to speak at these council meetings is so that I have a video of what is said. My husband and I have spoke with several persons of the city, and they have said one thing, and when we asked them again, they have denied it. For instance, the mayor saying his hands were tied by the time this issue got to him. We emailed him. Actually, we were first called, but there's no record of that. We emailed him in August of 14. We came out to a meeting, August of 14, and he came out to look at the issue in August of 14. It was not approved till the 15th. Mr. Miyake said that from satellite pictures in 2011 that our property was always lower. I did not know you could tell grades by satellite pictures. So go back and look at pictures from 2000. Before he put in his in-ground pool and all his concrete work behind his house without a permit. He did all this work without a permit. That is a fact. He took the dirt from that pool and spread it out on his backyard. He brought in truckloads. If you check your records, there was a complaint made by the neighbor across the street. That was in the early 2000. So he did this work without a permit. Now he says he didn't fill in. So you believe him. When he started this work on his driveway, it was without a permit until we called. Then he got a permit. That's a fact. If you look at this picture, it looks, we are even. If you want to look at a picture on my phone that I just recently took, you can tell his driveway is higher. So
and
how
wider.
And wider. So how did so we have another so he did fill in. So we have a question on the ordinance that Mr. Mackey said that he is not in violation of. And I'm going to let my husband take over from here.
Well, so I talked to you briefly before the meeting. We have a potential resolution.
Right, you expect us to put in a French drain when we did not create this problem.
On our property at our cost.
Right, at our cost. We did not create this
So
problem.
what's the point of coming here? Because we could have done that without even getting you guys
Right.
involved.
We did not create this problem. He filled in. You can tell by the pictures. You can tell by coming over. He used to have a step going into his garage, but of course we have no proof of that. He says he didn't fill in, so he didn't fill in.
Let me ask you this question. Why do you think the concrete was poured 9.5 inches thick?
Hold on.
Along with gravel? Why would you need it that thick?
equipment.
Think about it.
I
Bob,
didn't-
think about it before you talk.
I didn't
Mr.
pour any
Councilman.
concrete, so.
I'm sorry.
Councilman Miyake,
Chairman.
Why don't I give you a little status here? I sent a letter out to Mr. and Mrs. Cifaldi and to Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson actually contacted me and ended up indicating that he would agree to this, even though he doesn't believe that he has any fault in this situation, just to take care of this, to be done with it, provided they put in the French drain as recommended, and also that there be an agreement, along with some agreement. He was a little unclear in terms of not getting sued by them. I don't know if that was like not to be sued or for there to be a release, because he doesn't want to have to deal with any more grief from them. He also wants them to, and wants us to potentially take enforcement action against them, but he'd rather them just stop shining their huge floodlight into his backyard, because it makes it difficult for him to basically be able to do anything. So this is where he is right now. I have not heard anything from Mr. and Mrs. Cifaldi until they came to this council meeting and have ended up indicating what they have at this juncture. So I don't know what to say other than that Mr. Anderson obviously was willing to try to work with his neighbors to end up getting this issue taken care of. But I mean, if we're supposed to do everything by the book and there's a problem with the light, then that's something else that needs to end up being taken care of. I would rather just see these neighbors work out things without having to,
Well,
What's the light have to do with anything?
well,
This is,
whoa,
we are
whoa, whoa,
working
whoa,
on
stop,
this.
stop.
I have a Everybody question. one at a
Listen,
time.
we were all civil until this particular incident happened. Well, excuse me, let me speak my mind here.
Oh, hold
Excuse
on.
me.
So where we're at is, you went out, there was a potential resolution, you communicated it to Mr. Anderson.
and to the same letter. It was sent out, as I believe I indicated, on January the 13th, by the end of the week, which is what I did.
Yeah, you called for a response in 14 days, which would be the 27th.
Right.
By the 27th.
So, Mr. Anderson contacted me, left a message for me. I actually spoke to him, and, but he has concerns with regard to the condition of their property with respect to this light. And Mr. McIntyre and I have spoken about the light, which I told Mr. Anderson that I would do so. Apparently, you folks are
Well,
aware of
that's
the-
another issue, and we should probably discuss this
Give
at
me one
another
second,
meeting.
Please, I'd like to comment. if
That
I
has
may.
nothing
May
to
I
do with the
comment?
concrete.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
Councilman Berry.
So, you said that, Counselor, that the gentleman, Mr. Anderson, was really willing to resolve this.
That is correct.
Okay, when you say willing to resolve it, you also mentioned that as long as they put in a French drain. So it would still require them to put in a French drain for him to resolve what? They're the
For
ones
him to
that
do all of the work that we would require of him as put in the letter, which was the suggested resolution.
put in,
He would have to do some grading. He would end up having to caulk some things. He'd have to extend the curb on his,
we
on
know
his driveway.
caulking won't do it, but I understand. So
Yeah.
there,
I mean, and these were the recommendations of, basically, the building department, as well as Mr. Brooks, as well as Mr. McIntyre.
so grading, what would he be grading?
He'd be grading to make sure that there's not a problem with respect to the area, which Mr. Cifaldi ended up indicating wasn't really an issue to him, but we want to make sure that there's not between the, whereas there's the curb and the fence, that there's not like a slight dip there where the water can come through and get into their property. So he would end up having to do that to the satisfaction of Mr. Brooks. So, he's willing to do these things.
I don't want to put Mr. Brooks on a spot, but apparently, the recommendation to grade this property would prevent the water from coming onto their property? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, he would have to do some grading toward the rear of the concrete, where the concrete ends.
Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson's backyard, but along the side, you're talking about a French
Yeah,
drain,
the
correct?
backyard
Yeah, well, I can read
Correct.
this to you. It
So,
says, Mr. and
wait,
Mrs.
no, hold on
Cifaldi
one
will have
second,
to
sir,
install a
please.
French
I
drain.
apologize, I'm trying to get a visual here,
Okay,
because
okay.
the real issue isn't the backyard, if I'm.
No.
The real issue isn't the backyard.
by our house.
The real issue is by the house.
It's the draining so that it goes into the backyard or down his driveway. So the backyard is relevant to
So-
the idea of the grading, and that's
The
what
grading.
that's what it's designed to do right now. And as a matter of fact, the shots that they've taken in terms of the elevations basically is consistent with that, and Mr. Anderson came out with a level which was consistent with that as well when we all came out and ended up visiting and taking notes with regard.
Consistent with what?
So if in fact he was to grade this and it would move the water away from their property, why would they need to put in a French drain just to satisfy an agreement?
Yes.
No.
No,
The idea is that there were some minor, Mr. Brooks, and he can correct me if he wants to, but basically the idea is that there could be some minor improvements in terms of the grade. It already was doing that. Let's say this is toward the backyard and this is to the front. It's like the cement goes back that way. It's just to make sure, because there's not like a lip right here that extends as far back. And the idea is that let's extend that a little bit, let's extend it forward a little bit, and then make sure for certain that it's going to end up going over to the backyard. Mr. Anderson believes that there is a minute amount of water that actually comes from his cement area into their area. The idea is, okay, we've seen it, there is water that certainly accumulates in that area, but we want to make sure that there's a systemic approach that takes care of
The water
the
that
problem, definitely
goes
takes
there.
care of the problem. So that's why this letter was
So the grade itself doesn't take care of the whole problem.
The grade would be a way to, if you take Mr. Anderson's way of looking at things, it's not needed. If you take Mr. and Mrs. Trifaldi's way of looking at it, it's desperately needed. This is a way to make sure that we do whatever is reasonable to make sure that the problem is.
Flooding.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Flooding, desperately needing. Side vent, back door, flood.
Yeah, and
In
in
20 years
this
we've had our
letter,
house, we've not had this
yeah,
problem.
neither one of us had any problem. We've both been in there decades,
What
and
has
there's
to happen
been
next, it
been
sounds
nothing.
like, is,
Well, first of
No.
all, let me finish.
No,
This is
hold
what,
on,
this
hold
is
on,
what
hold
we were
on.
recommended to do.
is here
To
back
install a
from-
French drain and/or other things determined by city officials and/or Mr. Brooks.
That's a
Now, I
pretty broad
can't
statement.
sign up to a blank check. So these and/or other things need to be explained in detail
Well,
and
why
how
not
it's
call me?
supposed to be done and what the
Why
cost
not
is going
call
to be
me?
done.
But can you
couldn't
communicate
you?
that to Mr. Miyake directly?
No,
That's all I'm
I
because
just did.
I don't feel like we should have to pay
Wait, don't,
for
yeah,
it.
I
I'm
just
sorry.
did.
Why
Okay.
should we have to pay for it?
let's
We
get
did not
that-
create this
right.
problem.
Let's get to the permit. What,
I said, could you communicate, not...
We're communicating
not,
to
should you-
everybody.
Should you do it or not?
we're doing it right now,
Communicate
Bob. We're
your-
communicating.
No, not right
Chairman.
now. Could you communicate your intentions regarding the letter he sent directly to Mr. Miyake, give him his office a call?
And Mr. Chairman,
We
in terms
just
of
did
the
it.
other and/or other things, if I may, there were some other things that were suggested by Mr. Brooks that I did not, and I think maybe Mr. Soto or Mr. Watland, that I don't have the technical knowledge of to basically remember exactly what they were called. That's what we're talking about, and/or other things. I'm not under the impression that they would be very expensive or extensive. I think the French drain would be a bigger thing if Mr.
Yes.
Brooks can address that.
Right. From their backyard to the sidewalk, there's about a half a foot difference in grade, which would give you sufficient depth to form a swale, all right, from the back to the front. All right, and you put a French drain in there, it would just help drain the water, all right, and get the water out toward the curb to the front. Okay, so there's a half a foot of grade, which gives you sufficient.
Mr.
So,
If you, can I,
Hold on, one at a time. So, yeah, all I'm saying is, you need to communicate to Mr. Miyake pursuant to the letter, yay or nay. Yes, you're gonna do it.
Nay.
You don't. So, and not, come to the meeting and announce it and then.
Well, I wanted to talk about, I
First
wanted
of
to
all,
talk
let me
about
say
other
something.
things.
Yeah, he, says that that he didn't fill in. He filled in to
He
create
filled
this
in.
problem.
Again, I'll ask you, why do you think he poured 9.5 inches of concrete
That's
plus
what I'd like to.
2.5 inches
answer
of
that for me,
gravel?
because I don't know where you're leading to on that. Answer that.
Why
for
would
me.
someone need this thick of concrete?
I don't know unless he's
Well,
pulling a semi in there to park
No,
at night.
but there is a
Well, he
difference in
can't park
grade
that
based
by
on the
ordinance.
original lot
It-
anyways. There's a difference.
It's a, what did he call it? A
Service walk.
service walk. So it's a service walk. You could park a car on 4 inches of concrete, so I'm not sure. I'll tell you why I think he did it.
Okay.
And this is my explanation. He had to do it that thick to raise his grade that high because he was down even with us before, and the only way for him to get a base was to do it all cement. If he put sand there or gravel, it was going to fall through the fence. So he had to pour it that thick. That just pretty much tells you his grade was even with mine before. He had no option but to raise it that high with all concrete. If he was to do it the normal way with base of sand and then 4 inches of concrete, the sand would have fell right through the fence.
You had a question regarding an ordinance. You said
Yes,
you had a
I
question
do.
regarding an ordinance.
There's access through yards, which is the service walk. Any walkway, terrace, or other pavement providing access through a yard and not in excess of 6 inches above grade shall be permitted, and any required yard and not be considered to be a structure. The total area of any such walkway, terrace, or other pavement shall be included in the calculations of impervious surface as regulated by this article. He is clearly above 6 inches of grade.
And what ordinance is it? What's the number?
Section 36-268, access through yards.
Right, so.
Can anybody answer that?
I can answer
I
it.
would- I would like to-
Answer it is, he denies your allegation.
Is he not?
He basically
One at
has
a time,
indicated that
please.
he poured six inches and that you have overhang based on molds. And he's in the cement business. The only way we could end up not taking that as being true would be to end up boring a hole in there. And by the way, that would
Boring a
not
hole for,
necessarily mean,
he's not 6 inches above our grade.
No, it's his.
no,
You're
but
saying
he
it's
says the
his grade.
cement, since your property was at a lower grade than his property to
No,
begin
they
with.
were all even, but
all
this,
even.
this
I mean,
here
that's the
doesn't
picture
say,
shows
it
it.
says above grade. It doesn't say above your own grade. How do you get above your own grade? How do you possibly get above your grade is your grade.
Exactly, so your
So
grade
it's
is not-
inherently implied that 6 inches above grade pretty much is anybody's grade, and a service walk has to be on the side of your house, next to
suggestion.
your neighbors.
So you need to call the city attorney, discuss with him directly, and his comments, and then he'll report back to us. To stand in front of the council and say, you know,
Well, the reason we got here is because we tried going to the building department, tried going to the ordinance department. They kept on
And then look at that.
pushing us back and forth. We ended up at the mayor's office. Still nothing got done. That's why we're here,
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair. That's why we're here.
I.
It could have been handled all with the proper procedures done here. Now I got a question about a remove and replace permit.
Again.
Well, this has nothing to do with
Okay,
Mr. Miyake.
Hold on.
I'm gonna,
Again, the
You
first
can see how
step
it's raised.
is for you to call the city attorney and discuss this directly with him, not here right now, hey, you know, blah, 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 and so in response to in fact, maybe you better email him
Yes, thank you.
so that there's a record, a
we
written
have
response.
emailed him with these questions and they have not been answered.
Which questions, because this is not.
About a
response.
remove and replace permit.
Then just send me the response to the letter by email, and then I can report back to the council.
We have sent you this via email
No,
on a
the
remove and replace permit.
Sir,
If some,
the letter I sent on January the 13th, which I know you've received, send me an email, I know you have my email, indicating what your response is to the proposal that was made, whether or not you're accepting it or rejecting it. And then basically I can report back to the council. If you're going to reject it, then I don't need you to end up calling me. You just need to send me an email, and then I can end up following up
I
with
can't
this
just
body.
tell you right here now I'm rejecting
No,
it.
no, and do
Good if
you
you want,
have,
and I'll
I just did. I did 10 minutes ago.
do you have the city attorney's email address?
I believe we do.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chair.
So that's the next step. Councilman Abdullah.
So I just have a question on this. From what I understood, and quite honestly, I can't remember if it was with the building and safety director that I spoke with. I'm not recalling who it was, but the cost of fixing this with this French drain is going to be roughly, and let me know if I'm wrong, $3, $4, whatever it is, $100.
I have no idea. Nobody's giving me a
Well,
price.
I've had a
I
couple
haven't
different
got
people
bids.
mention that it's
I
relatively cheap.
researched it, I Googled it, and it could be $1,500 to $2,000. I Googled it.
$1,500 to $2,000.
Yes.
Okay,
That's-
so
that's
the
a little
problem
bit
I've got
different
with this, Mr. Chairman, if we keep going back and forth with the attorney, meanwhile, us as a city, we're just paying for, hourly fees to the attorney, and I'm just gonna throw a number out there of $2,000 to $3,000 or whatever it happens to be. When this thing can be fixed for $300, $400, it might be even cheaper for us as a city to just pay to fix this and get this thing over with, instead of just keep going back and forth, with all due respect, with attorney fees, and have it cost us $4,000 or $5,000, which I personally would be against. I mean, we've done the attorney thing, obviously it didn't work out yet, then let's move to Plan B.
Right, but you have to communicate that first to the city attorney.
I told him last council meeting,
Instead of
before he sent
coming
out the
up
meeting.
here and
And
saying,
you,
"Oh, we're not gonna do it."
I would like to support Councilman Abdullah's,
Chairman.
So, but that is a function of the ordinance department and the administration, not the council. If you want an ordinance passed that you can't.
Bob, we went to,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, we went to the ordinance department and we got nothing but the runaround. That's why we went to the mayor's office and then we still didn't get anything resolved, and that's why we're here. So where do I go from here? You asked,
Councilwoman
I don't know where to go.
I tend to agree with Councilman Abdullah, okay? Because this is never going to end. Number one, Councilman Abdullah knows what you're talking about. Dan Brooks knows what you're talking about. A lot of people here know what you're talking about. The majority of us, if we are honest, I know your property is lower because I've been out there. I know exactly what you're talking about. But I am no techie. I don't know what to tell you. So when you keep bringing it back to us, I'm sitting here thinking, they want me to say something, but I don't know what to say. So you either have to work through our attorney, or, I agree with Mr. Abdullah, we get the job.
So I'm going to ask Mohammed,
else to
the
do?
building director.
Wait, Rich, hold on, please.
I'm done. I mean, I
So,
don't know where
and
else
to
to go.
dovetail on what Councilwoman Horvath says, so you come to the council meeting, so you came to the council meeting, you had an issue, the city engineer, ordinance director, and the city attorney went out. They said, here's a proposed resolution. They sent you a letter. The first step is you've got to respond to that letter to the city attorney, and then he reports back to us.
With all due respect, Councilman, they were out 2 years ago and they said they were going to do something and it wasn't done.
But there was a proposal. There was a proposal.
Well,
I hear you coming to us every week and saying, why was our neighbor given this permit? Why won't you write him a ticket?
Yeah, and we didn't get any answers yet. We still haven't.
Hold on, Councilman Berry. We're the council, that's the administration. So there was a proposal from the city, communicated to you by the city attorney. So the first step is you've got to communicate back to him in writing.
No, we don't. We can tell you right here. No.
No.
wait, hold on a
Yes.
second,
Okay.
please.
All right, well, email you and say
No,
no.
go ahead. Mr. Chair,
Councilman Berry.
can we get an estimate on this French drain? Is there a company that we can ask to go out and get an estimate on this French drain? This is ridiculous already. I mean, if you really want to get technical about it, rip out the pool because there's no permit.
Right.
Ned.
Right. He did his work without a permit.
All non-permits.
Things without pulling permits.
You know, this.
Yeah. That is the answer.
That is something that, why don't you get some written estimates?
Mr. Chair,
No.
they have a permit. And this is the
No,
problem.
no, 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 no.
These things.
I for it.
Dude,
I did the
please,
freedom.
one at a
Okay,
time.
I did
One
the
at a
Freedom
time.
of Information Act for all work done,
No
and
pool
no
stuffing.
pool permit was there. None, unless the city
Before
did
you
not
did
give me,
twice.
right, before it did twice. Unless the city did not give me all the information, which is against the law.
In fact, Jack McIntyre was the one who informed me that he didn't pull permits for his pool.
Okay, take a breath and hold on.
So
We
we need
heard you.
resolution.
Hold on, hold on. Now, Counselor Miyake, you wanted to say something?
No, I was just going to say, I was looking at Jack. Jack indicates that they do have a permit for the pool, and this is the difficulty with taking information out of context and having it subject to a whole bunch of people who are going to applaud. And when we have Mr. Anderson come in here, what are you going to end up doing then?
Well, no document was ever
excuse me,
shown. People are saying a bunch of stuff in
Right.
here, and excuse me if I'm wrong here,
They're making
but
it- they're
there is
making-
no documentation, and we FOIA'd the information
Right.
twice on all concrete work, and nothing came up about the pool
We will
or
continue.
any of the patio in the
Additional
back,
patio
nothing.
or all the cement around us.
Twice we FOIA'd.
Right.
We will continue the discussion after the council meeting about a deposit, or a estimate on what the French drain would cost. And you need to communicate back to the city attorney in writing, we got your proposal, we don't want to do it, or whatever. And, you know, whether there's a
And,
permit or
and
not,
I
but
need to
we-
be clear on what a remove and replace permit is. Building director's right here. If I have an 8x8 shed, and I want to put up a
Rich,
15 by
Mr. Civaldi,
15
A year
shed,
ago,
can I pull a remove and replace?
a year ago, we had a meeting where your wife, who I've known almost all my life, was yelling directly at our building director. We can't, we're not set up now at the end of the meeting to sit and argue this all, everybody
I'm
else.
not
That's
arguing, I'm
the way it
asking a
works.
question. That's
Okay.
it. What is a remove and replace permit? If they go above and beyond what they
That
originally
question-
had?
Put that question in your email.
We
We
have.
have.
We have multiple times to multiple
Maybe
council people
CC
and
the
Mr.
chairman.
Miyake.
CC the chairman.
CC me.
This way there's a little more accountability. If it's a case of somebody not answering, CC the chairman. This way you have a little bit more accountability.
We've gone above and
to make sure
beyond
you get an
giving you
answer.
guys information since day one. Put it in writing, send it to the building director, send it to the ordinance department, send us
have a
pictures.
proposal.
Do this, do that. We've
You have a
jumped through
proposal
hoops to
that-
give
that you
stuff,
want us
and
to
we
pay
haven't
for.
gotten one answer in 2.5
We had a proposal,
years.
so the first step
Right.
is for you to communicate back, yay or nay. Okay, so that's.
Nay.
Right, okay, well, we will email them
Hey,
back. We will email them.
Thank you.
Okay, we will email you back.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
So,
Hold on,
I'm-
Councilman Musket.
Musket? No, I'm waiting for Councilman Musket, and it looks like Councilman Berry wants to speak.
I don't know, and maybe somebody can clue me in on how someone can really tell elevation from Google World, one. Number two, has anybody taken a transit out there and shot with a transit?
Now, that's not a question.
I mean, put a transit out there. Did you shoot it with a transit? And not shooting it off the cement, but actually shooting it from the ground?
I have
I mean,
no
I
idea
could
what he's
shoot
talking
it off,
about.
I could shoot something off that's 9 inches higher and get an elevation, but what about from the ground? Do you have that information?
Yes.
So can we get an estimate on what it's going to cost to put a French drain in there?
That's what we're
Can
gonna
we
talk
please?
about.
So before they completely deny the agreement, can we take a look at what it's going to cost to put a French drain out there? Do we have a contractor that we can ask to come out and take a look at it?
Okay, that's not a question that we can answer right now. We're gonna discuss that, and we're gonna I'm gonna talk with, we can all talk with, Building Director, and Ordinance Director McIntyre about getting a couple estimates, and homeowner can get a couple estimates regarding what it would cost for French drain, and whether, that's a decision, again, with the administration, whether the
we'll talk
homeowner
about
would
that.
pay
Let's
for it,
get it.
or the city would pay for it. That's not something we're gonna decide on and vote on at the end of the council meeting. There was a proposal, and the first step, again, is to communicate back call
Okay.
the city attorney in writing, yea or nay, so.
But we're beating that with a dead horse already.
We're-
They all told you they're not happy with it.
Right.
So at least let us look at Councilman Abdullah's Plan B. Let's get an estimate here. Let's at least make some progress. They don't like
Before
our
you say no.
proposal. Let's take a look at it.
That's what I just said, that's what we're going to do.
Before you say no.
Okay, well then, if you guys do not get back with me before the 14 days, I cannot respond.
Okay, please respond to the
I can, no,
letter.
you're asking me to respond without
Better.
information.
Mr. Miyake, do we have to hold them
Tom,
for 14
please.
days? Can we wait?
No, I will not hold them. I'm not holding you to the 14 days.
Okay, when you guys get back with me on if you will pay for it, how much it will cost,
Where it's gonna be.
Where it's gonna
how
be, how it's gonna affect our
If there's
property.
gonna be any pop-ups, clean-outs.
Right.
Where all this stuff is gonna be.
Well, I
then,
mean, get your own estimate too, just to be on the safe side,
Okay.
for your own peace
I-
of
Get
mind.
an estimate, please.
Well, okay. When I have a guy come out to give me an estimate, what am I gonna tell him about and/or other things determined
No,
by
really.
No, just
city
the French
officials?
drain.
Let's
Just the
just
French
look at the
drain.
French drain and let's get an
It's just the
estimate
French
here.
drain?
well, that's,
Get an idea of what a French drain.
okay,
would
So
cost.
because,
the
Thank you.
semantics of the letter, let's just set that
Okay.
aside right now. Let's get a price on this French drain.
okay, so we will not respond to your letter until I hear something from,
Will you get an estimate?
I will get an estimate. You guys will get an estimate. Now, what is the next step? Do I have to call you? Do I come to the next city council meeting? Do you email me?
You're gonna
Do you-
speak with the building director?
We're gonna speak right after the meeting and decide that next step, okay? We don't just come up and everybody shouts and.
Okay.
Okay, and again, when the city attorney says, here's our proposal, you have to respond back, yea or nay, in writing, not just
Okay, well, I am
submitting and say, no, this will.
holding off until,
It's a two-way street, Mr. Councilman. We've been asking questions and we've never got answers either, okay? It's a two-way street, not a one-way street.
And
You
that-
guys are public servants and you guys serve the public.
In
I
that
am
reg-
part of the public. I am a tax-paying citizen of this city.
So-
Okay, when we ask you
Chairman, so is
questions,
his
we
neighbor.
expect to get an honest answer.
Should I
Right, but
recommend?
again, we
that-
have to do this one step at a time. There was a proposal, we need to
We did
hear
this
back.
2.5 years ago with the first step.
Thank you,
Again and again and again.
so,
That's why we're here.
thank you.
While we are basically in a position where I mean, because we had a bunch of people applauding based on information that they were told, I would like to make sure that everyone is fine with the idea that, at least for the time being, if they're not in compliance in terms of the light ordinance, that we will end up being in position to hold off on anything.
okay,
Wait a
we
minute,
will
time out.
we will do our
Time
light
out.
if he lowers his fence to 6 feet, not 7 feet.
Hold on,
Wait
let's
a
do
minute,
this.
he's got a commercial light less than 10 feet from our bedroom window. Our floodlight, it ain't a commercial floodlight, it's a floodlight that's been there forever.
This after the meeting.
The floodlight's been there
Anyone
forever.
else?
Toward a resolution.
I'm trying.
We're done.
hold on,
We're
no, no,
done.
hold-
Okay?
We're done.
You wanna talk about ordinance, he's got a commercial light 10 feet from our window. We're over 150 feet
Just do
away.
me a favor, please. Let's get,
Go out and look at it.
let's get an
wanna
estimate on a
talk
French
lights.
drain.
We are
Rich,
done
everyone's in non-compliance.
discussing,
Everyone-
Please.
you've been up there for, we're done discussing this, we'll discuss it after the meeting.
Things out, yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'll be quick.
She says she's gonna be.
Number one, the guy that caused the problem should be the one to pay to fix it. That's my opinion. The other thing is about the Facebook page that said boiling the stinky water that we had a couple weeks ago. That was another community that did not come from anybody from this city. Also, what's important to know is that the city can test for lead all they want, but actually each house needs to test their own lead because they may have old pipes that had been soldered with lead, or the pipes that are coming from the street might have been soldered with lead. So the best way for people to have for their own self to know that everything's okay is to test the water out of their own pipes. And that can be done.
Mr. Chair, I believe Mr. Zimmer did say that with, you know, sections that are older and have
Right.
different pipes, so Mr.
Right.
Zimmer did cover that.
Right, but each house has to be, it just can't be the city. They're not gonna, the city can't come in and do everybody's tap. It'd have to be individuals if they really are concerned. The other thing I have is Knox boxes. This was brought up at the Southwest Neighborhood Association, and there's kind of some confusion here. Councilman Berry states that these boxes have already been purchased by the city, and I guess there's a whole bunch of them, but some of the seniors are saying that they're having to pay $150 for these boxes.
You're talking about the
boxes, yeah. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna get
Yeah.
clarification here.
Yeah, we need clarification, that's all.
The Knox boxes, we have certain amount for people who can't, or that don't qualify for the free ones. They have to qualify because they're very expensive. We just got a price today for new ones because we have 5 left. Most of ours are out, our free Knox boxes. They've changed the way they're made now, and the ones that we got before when we first started this program were very, very sturdy and everything. Those are like $300 now each. So they make a different model now, and we were just getting the prices on those so that we could purchase some more because we only have 5 left. We have to, because they're so expensive, we have to give the ones that the people that can't afford them, so we use a criteria. We follow the same criteria that we follow for the food program, the TFAB program. And the ones that qualify under that or disabled and they have a note from their doctor, I hate to bring up the note, but they have a note from their doctor, then they get the free one. We also put stickers on the Knox boxes, and the stickers allow us to get some of them back when they no longer need them. And we've actually gotten some back that way as well. And then the people who can afford them pay the $151. We don't charge any additional money on that at all, and they're able to get it. So, well, I just got prices today, and the new ones that we are going to have to purchase, I haven't told my boss yet, and they're not to the same quality of our older ones. They're $174 each. Well, yeah, really super sturdy, and these other ones are lighter. I haven't seen them in person, the other ones, so I don't know if they're as good, but they still serve the same purpose, and they hang over the door, and you know, the EMS has the key and things like that. No, they can't, no.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else, please come up and state your name and the street you live on.
Hello, my name is Mark Treziak, Parker Street. I wanted to speak on behalf of my neighbor, Rich. I live on the same block as him, and I want to advocate for any decision that you guys have to resolve this situation. I mean, I've been watching this since it began. It's an embarrassment how long this has been going on. I mean, there's got to be some sort of resolution to get this squared away and be done with. I can tell you in regards to the pool, in 2005, I'm a teacher, I'm off in the summertime, I'm hanging out at my house in the summertime, gravel trains are showing up, I leave for Malta for 2 weeks, I come back, there's a pool in the backyard. So
Mark, number one, there was a proposal, it was communicated to the.
I heard that, and I'm advocating for it.
Both homeowners, and we had to hear back, you know, in writing.
I understand.
The proposal.
I understand exactly what you're saying.
Discuss it further, that's number one. Number two, all these facts, what you need to do is, you know, put it in an email and get it to our ordinance department.
I can understand that as well, but while I'm here, I'm advocating for my neighbor as a neighbor, and as a citizen, I'm here to voice my concern for how long this has taken to resolve this. This is an absolute waste of time and effort and money to sit here and argue this fact back and forth. Anybody who has a half a brain can go over there and see that and know that it's not right. If the grade was raised, if the grade was not raised, as we're arguing, why in the world would all of a sudden this flooding be an issue? Clearly there's an issue. You just spoke a minute ago. I sat here and heard you guys say that one of the resolutions that they proposed was for Rich to fill a grade, to regrade. Why would he have to regrade if the grade wasn't changed.
See, we can't solve
wasn't
this.
Rich that was
just
regrading.
Well, nonetheless.
going back
I
and
appreciate the
forth.
advocacy, but I think we're coming close to a resolution if we can get these estimates.
I hope so. And I mean, again, I'm here as a friend on one behalf and as a taxpayer on the other behalf. And
Because
as a
we can't-
taxpayer, I'm disappointed. That's all I'm saying.
We can't solve it by.
I get
everybody-
that. I understand the process. The process takes time. But like I said, as a taxpayer, I'm almost insulted that this has taken so long.
Right, everybody has to understand the process.
And that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Motion to adjourn?
That is, wait, we have one more, I believe.
Good to see you, former Councilman Ned Opinion. You can,
Thank you.
if you have any comments about the,
I'd be happy to share my comments.
regarding.
I like to say something about the trash can problem. One of the things that was overlooked, and unfortunately wasn't studied, the city of Dearborn Heights is not Canton, it's not Novi, it's not a developing city with large families. If you look at this council, half the people either live alone, they're husband and wife, they're not multi-families. I can't even fill that garbage can that comes to my house, and I'm a two-person household. Logic would tell you this is an older suburb. It's not a matter of disabilities. It's not a matter of senior citizen. I'm a senior citizen, and I can manipulate that can, even though I had open heart surgeries 3 months ago. So that's not a problem. The problem is a third of the population of the city, at least, if not more, are people that live in single households, people that live alone in houses. They can't fill that garbage can. I can't fill mine with me and my wife. I can manage it. Now there's those ugly blue things all over the city. They're so big you can't even hide them. So much for the ordinance to hide your trash cans. So we have a city that if you did an analysis, you don't have 5-person households all over the place. Probably we're 50% less. What should have happened, and it's not a matter of your distribution problem, you should have told the people, do you want a 20-gallon one or you want a 50-gallon one? And you would have had a choice. And that problem's correctable now, and that's what you should do. Those people, and there's a lot more than you think of the people who called and need a doctor's appointment. That's the solution. You haven't understood this 57,000 people is not a teeming place of 5 or 6 people in a household. Just look at yourselves. Now, about this pool. I'm familiar with this, I heard this before, and I want to tell you one thing. You have in your ordinance today that you cannot shift your grade with your neighbor's house, has to be shifted so your water falls on your property or either goes to the street or wherever it goes. It can't go. That's the way it is. It's standard. Now, if we, the city, have dropped the ball here and somehow allowed this person to do what it is he did, either I understand you want him to build the French drain on his property to suck up the water that comes on his property, or Mr. So-and-so, the solution to the problem is the violator who did not pay attention to the rules, regulations, and whether we did not oversee it correctly, he has to restore the situation to not be an imposition on his neighbor. That's the way it has to be. And if I were him, I hate to say it, I'd sue the city, and he would win. And you should avoid the cheapest way for you is to make that guy restore his property so he's not an encumbrance on his neighbor at his expense. He's going to take out that 9 inches of concrete. If I remember exactly that, he wanted concrete. He should have went down 6 or 7 inches and made his concrete, the top of that elevation had to match his neighbor, not to be above it. Anyway, Sometimes if you talk too much, you lose your effect. Thank you.
Glad you're in good health, Ned.
The rules are the rules. The violator pays.
We got you. Anyone else?
Move to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.